Welcome, dear viewer. I remember when the Zelda timeline wasn't convoluted. So as you might have guessed, in this episode of Pixels Reimagined, I'm doing the Link sprite as a natural addition to the original Mario sprite. And I actually had several angles to choose from due to the nature of Legend of Zelda as opposed to Mario, but I chose the one where he's looking straight on because I felt like I had the most ability to manipulate it. And so without further ado, here's my drawing process. So just like with the Mario one, I started with the 3 sprite colors that are available in the original. And I start just generally blocking it around. I kept the garment that Link has, but I designed it to be more of like a hood, almost like a monk's robe, than separate pieces. And I block it out pretty roughly. Instead of the Mario one where later on I decided to change the color scheme a little bit, here I just get the color down so that I could add some more detail later. So with this interpretation, I decided to go with a robotic sort of look. And here I start with this weird horn design that I alter a little bit later. And instead of the ears, because obviously, I'm sure gamers knew then, and we know now that Link is a person or a little elf boy, however you consider him, and whatnot. But when I look at the sprite and see it faced on, I almost see an Iron Man-esque mask. And so that's kind of the design I worked from this time, kind of similar to Mario's hair because of how the design went. And so it ends up getting a kind of copper and brass sort of look. I don't go into heavy detail to make it look really metallic, but I do some tricks later on once I start cleaning the piece up to make it look a little bit more like it was a robot. I struggled with the shield concept because honestly I probably should have just kept it its own shape, but because I saw it so distinctly segmented, I decided to make it a little bit more funky. And then obviously he's got his belt that I have to work on. I thought of originally doing him from the side, but as I mentioned, when I decided to go with the mask kind of look, I thought it'd be better to have him staring right at the audience, just because if not easier to draw, I just think it'd be more dramatic for a one-off drawing, since I'm not doing an entire work based on him. Obviously I draw him from multiple angles in the concept sheet if I was going to be making him for an actual game or an actual comic or something like that. As usual, I struggle with the hands. I gave him a little bit of a midden kind of look, and I decided that was fine because he's a robot, but I added a little bit of a finger situation because the sprite is a little bit unclear where that is, because you can't have anything portrayed as purely round because of the 8-bit style. But I still figured that it kind of looks like that he has fingers, and so I started cleaning it up. His sword looks very small now, and you barely see it from this angle. But that's not all of that. That's not all that I do with it, as you see later, because I figured since he's a robot and because when he's at full health, it's a projectile weapon, that it'd be some kind of laser sword. And I thought that that would be fitting. And this is one of those ones, and I figured it'll be like that with most of these drawings, that when I have the single color worked out and I just block it in, it looks very elementary or basic. And because I'm working under a time a timed situation, not very high stress, but just that I want to get the video out in a proper amount of time that I can edit and everything, then I'm in a little bit of a rush and don't have every line as clean as I want it to be. Which, for this one in particular, I maybe should have used some more geometric tools instead of freehanding it. Especially because I wanted to give it a more robotic look. But I'd say that by the end, it looks passably nice. I'd say I like how it turns out. I'm sure that everyone loves when 5 minutes into a video about art, the artist is like, "Oh, I mean, this piece is kind of cool." I mean, you don't have to do it like that. So I've considered, since, or I should say, if this is going to be a long-running series, then eventually I'll get to some enemy sprites and whatnot, and I'm not sure how much of theme it'd be, so, like, if I have Robot Link, then would I make all of his enemies robots too? Like, I'd probably do a Robot Dark Knight, that sounds really fun. Or I could make them kind of aliens as a difference on the trope. And then the Mario ones, I'd kind of make them grotesque, biological mutants almost. Which kind of makes sense in the Mario world. Because I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be fantasy. But since it doesn't have the same aesthetic as Zelda, it almost feels like post-apocalyptic. And I don't know if that was intentional or not. But that's why I always thought as a kid. But I didn't have the NES Mario. I had the Game Boy Color Deluxe one that included the original and the Lost levels. So I played a lot of Mario, and it was fun. So I mean, I'm drawing Link right now, so I should probably talk more about Zelda than I should about Mario. So, funnily enough, I have beaten the original Legend of Zelda, but I've only played it on a calculator. Because I'm that kind of nerd. And so me and my friends had downloaded a pack, and so I had Pokemon Red, and let's see, and Asteroids, and Super Mario Bros, and The Legend of Zelda on my programmable calculator. And Mario looked different. I mean, it was all in black and white. Because I'm sure there's some kind of fancy calculator that you could program, including color and everything. But mine didn't at the time. It was only a TI-84. But the Legend of Zelda one actually looked kind of accurate, except, like I said, it was in black and white. And I didn't really play it during math class. I mean, I did try to be a good student, and that wouldn't have been the smartest decision to make, even though I did sometimes play it in math class. But yeah, I'd usually play it on the bus coming back from school, or sometimes at home. But I mean, I had a Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Advance SP, new flip phone and light settings action. When I was a little kid, I didn't know what the original Game Boy Advance looked like, or I distinctly remember seeing the Game Boy Advance and being really weirded out. And we had a Game Boy Color, so I knew what that one looked like, but we just got the Game Boy Advance SP. And so my brother's friends came over once with a link cable, and we played some, but he had the original Game Boy Advance. And I thought it looked really cool, but it looked very weird to me. I've wanted to play more Zelda. I got the 3DS version of Ocarina of Time, and I never beat it. I'm very bad with video games. That's actually that's part of the impetus for me making YouTube videos, because, I mean, it's fun. I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't fun, because why else would I be doing it? It's not like I get views or money or anything like that. That's kind of ridiculous. But it's very easy to incentivize for me, because it's easier for me to see the progress that I've made and to have a little bit more of a point other than it in itself. So I guess it's a little mental trick that I do to almost trick myself into it. So as opposed to Mario, because this one I didn't have, I mean, the darkest color in this one isn't very dark, so because it's so low contrast, the darker colors didn't pop very well, like they did with the Mario one. So the Mario one, I had just one layer of darker color that I used to highlight the shapes and make the forms and everything. But in this one, I decided that I wanted another darker shade on some points, and so you'll see right now that I'm applying the darker shade in key areas to make it look a little bit better. And I didn't use the Mario logic in this instance, so the eyes are not made out of cloth. Instead, I made them glow a little bit, so I add the darker edge around the bottom of it, and then later on I add the white highlights when I start adding that to the rest of it. And here, right off the bat, I think so at least, you can see in the clothing where I do the darker lines how it just immediately makes it look a little bit better. Doing the shadows, and as I've said before, I do time these, so this one was a little bit over. Well, this one's closer to 40 minutes, but I started with 30 minutes because I spent a little bit more time on this one than Mario, because I felt like this one needed to be cleaned up a little bit more at a certain point. And I'm sure there are artists that can do amazing things in much less time. I mean, if you've seen any speed painting, that still amazes me. But I usually do spend more time on things. So eventually I'll do some artistic projects, so it'll look a lot more polished in my style. But as for now, I've been pretty satisfied with what I've done on the channel. I haven't made something and then immediately gone, oh crap, I can't make a video out of this. I say only having done 3 of them. I mean, I only have Mario, the Rhino, and now Link. But you know, still better than not liking it. Oh yeah, here we go. This is my favorite part, adding in the highlights. Because it just immediately makes it. I mean, it doesn't take no skill, but I use little additions of white as sort of a cheat code to immediately make something look a little bit better. And I made them kind of lined to begin with, as you see with the shield, but then I decided to make it simpler and block out the white shapes. And here we go, we're just starting to get to the finished product, which is always nice to see. Okay, here I was trying out the opacity that I wanted, so you can finally see the laser sword. Woo! Yeah, this is the only other tool that I've used other than the little pen tool. Is I changed the opacity a little bit, just to make it simple, more for me than any sort of stipulation or constraint. Because, I mean, I like doing things simply. I would like to try out more tools and different ways of drawing later on, but in general, I work with one tool. Oh yeah, and here I added some texture to the clothing just to make it stand out a little bit more from the rest of it. So it's more of a, so you can tell it's like a gambeson or a cloak or something instead of being a very weirdly shaped robot body. And yeah, I wasn't satisfied with the shield, so I was doing some cleaning up, adding some darker colors and whatnot, and then eventually decided to stop at some point just because I figured that I'd just keep on messing away at the shield, which isn't a bad thing, but it's a little bit weird to do on video instead of just by myself when I'm working on a sketch. And so I'm just about wrapping up. Oh yeah, okay. I was trying to see where our cursor was. So yeah, so I added a little bit to the face, a little bit of other areas, and you're about to see the finished product where I just did the same thing with the Mario with the pixel shadow. And there we go. I think it turned out pretty well. So as usual, if you like the video, like it with the literal button, and comment if you'd like to, and subscribe if you'd like to see more art-related content. And I'm also doing playthroughs of video games. I'm currently doing Omori, and I'm planning on doing Undertale after that, even though it'll be kind of a while, the way the series is progressing. But until next time, viewers.